Welcome to the Saint Raphael School Open House. We're glad you are here. We do the open house every year, and we like to do this just to get information out to families, potential families, and also to let you know what's coming up next. Saint Raphael School is part of School Academy. We're the school within a school. We're the Orthodox school in School Academy. And we are part of this greater group here. And you'll see many of our pictures here already. And Joanne Shinstock, who is the director and principal of School Academy, sends her regards for us to have a wonderful open house. So she sends her regards. So School Academy, of course, is the overall reaching part of Classical Academic Press. And then we are a school within a school. Today's agenda is pretty simple. We're going to start with an opening prayer. We're going to talk about distinctives, and it'll begin with me. Community, Dr. Erin Moulton, who I'll introduce here, assistant to the SRS principal. We're going to talk about support services that are found at School Academy, and then a panel discussion. So I am Presbytera Maria Cuyanos. I am the principal of Saint Raphael School, longtime instructor since 2016. And I'm also the Tutoring Center and Center for Students with Learning Differences manager. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to that point. Up in the corner there, you can see Dr. Erin Moulton. Wave Dr. Erin, and she is an instructor with SRS and recently has been given the position as assistant to the principal because we are growing. By the grace of God, we are growing, and I have a lot of news to share about that. Of course, you can see on our panel, we have a couple parents with us. We have Julie and Rob Laurie and Allison Johansson, wave guys, and their parents. They're going to be here to answer questions. We have, as I mentioned before, Nancy Parcells, who is the School Academy customer service person that you would call for registration issues or email or whatever you would have as far as questions. Actually feed through her. So we're happy to have her here. So thank you, Nancy, for coming. And then everyone else on this call are instructors, which I will introduce as the time permits. So I was just checking to see if the priest that was here, but he isn't. So there's no priest in the room, is there? If there is, I would love you to lead in prayer. Otherwise, I'm just going to go ahead and lead in a short prayer. All right, so we're going to lead in the prayer of Saint Ephraim. O Lord and Master of my life, take from me the spirit of sloth, despair, lust of power, and idle talk. But give rather the spirit of chastity, humility, patience, and love to thy servant. Yea, O Lord and King, grant me to see my own transgressions and not to judge my brother, for blessed art thou unto the ages of ages. Amen. So I want to point out a couple things. Again, welcome. We will have time to have questions and answers. It's easiest for us if you put your questions and answers in the Q&A box below. So you have like these little buttons. There's one that says Q&A. It is much easier for us to keep track of all of the questions if they go into that centralized location and not in the chat box, because somehow maybe something will get lost into the chat box. But Dr. Erin and I will keep a lookout on both things. So hopefully we won't miss anything at all. All right, so there we go. Saint Raphael School, where community is at the heart. And, when we talk about an online school, and I know many of the names on this list are familiar, so welcome, welcome. And if you do have something to say, chime in, please. When we talk about online schools, sometimes it seems a bit impersonal, but Saint Raphael School is very personable. It's all about the heart. It's all about building up the body of Christ. And, instructors, families, students, we become part of one another's lives. For all intensive purposes, we become a community of learners that is growing together, not only in how we think, but also in the faith, in our walk towards Christ. And so for those of you that don't know a bit of the history of Saint Raphael School, we began in 2013 with Father Porphyrios of blessed memory, aka Dr. James Taylor, who wrote Poetic Knowledge. It's one of the books cited for the revival of classical Christian education. And then in 2018, we were then taken into Schole Academy as their first house of studies, the school within the school, Saint Raphael School. And then they have added since 2 other houses of studies, the Aquinas House, the Catholic House, and then Canterbury House, the Anglican House of Studies. Now, where are we going? Well, we're building the body of Christ. And I'm happy to report that since the last few years, we have grown substantially. And this is good news. Why? Well, because we have excellent instructors that are teaching in a classical Orthodox Christian approach, and our students and our families and our instructors are thriving in that environment, because our main goal is Christ. And so within that, we offer many things. So Saint Raphael School is classical. What does that mean? Well, that means that we make sure that when we are teaching how to think. We are offering questions. We're taking deep dives. It's not something of rote memorization, but it's taking what we know, the knowledge that we know, and then synthesizing it, transforming it, thinking about it in different ways. It is engaging. Many people think, wow, how engaging could it be online? And I always say, very much so, because our instructors make it so, and our families make it so, and our students make it so. So it is very engaging. It is restful and is orthodox. So every class is taught through the lens of orthodoxy within Saint Raphael School. And, we live orthodoxy. It's not something we do separately, although we do have catechetical classes, but we live orthodoxy. So it's embedded into every class that we have. Now, something that's really important to understand is the sense of rigor versus vigor. So rigor and restful go hand in hand at Saint Raphael School, because we're not talking about not having the expectations of reading something, synthesizing something, but taking the time to just sit with it a little while. I like to tell students, pitch your tent, come up to the campfire, and just let's sit a while, right? Let's just sit here a while and discuss. And so even though it is rigorous and we're taking deep dives, it is restful as well, because it's all about the journey of what we are learning and how to learn. We are very personable and relational. Many times I have said this, students will come through town and they'll say, can I just stop and give you a hug? We're on a cross-country, trip. And my answer is always yes. And I know Dr. Aaron has those experiences, and Mrs. Fothergill and Randy Sider-Rose. We all have those experiences, and even families meeting each other, and young ladies and gentlemen becoming best friends and spending summer vacations together. So when we're talking about personal relation, It is very much so. And then last but not least, instructor selection and formation. One of the things that, we make sure we do at Saint Raphael School is get the dedicated, at their discipline, instructors in the Orthodox faith to teach our children. And that for us is vital. And they undergo ongoing formation, both from a spiritual level, because of our Father Noah Bushelli, who is our spiritual advisor of the school at a spiritual level, but also at an educational level, right? So that they are growing, not only their students, but they themselves are growing as well, because we are always lifelong learners. So our curriculum is set up in this format. We have the main courses being the liberal arts, and they're run on a 2-year rotation. So for every level, there's a 2-year rotation. As you can see here, we start from kindergarten all the way up to seniors, okay? And it is all encompassing. So our liberal arts program covers reading, writing, rhetoric, history, natural science, in the natural world science, and everything is integrated, of course, in the Orthodox faith. Everything is integrated. Why? Well, because that's how we find this retention happening. That's how we find the fluidity. And you'll hear from some of the parents today about their child and their child's progress within the liberal arts program and how they've grown and really learned to think and to process and to put these pieces together holistically instead of them being separate disciplines to learn. In addition, as you can see on the right, we have a comprehensive catechetical program that starts in level 3. So that starts in, grades 2 to 5, and then we move on all the way up to seniors. We have news here, and Mr. Alexander Titus, wave, Mr. Alexander, the man with 2 names, as I call him. It's gonna stick, Alexander. It's gonna stick. He has come aboard this year, and he is going to be the upper school liberal arts instructor, and I should say Dr. Alexander Titus, forgive me. And we are going to be offering something new. So we are going to be offering 2 new things. One, the liberal arts level 8 modern classics of Christendom, 16th century and beyond, which is something I've been wanting to do for a couple years now, and Dr. Titus has taken the challenge, so thank you, Dr. Titus. And then Father Nikolai Myers, he's going to be offering a senior patristics seminar only for seniors in high school. And this, of course, will come after level 7 catechism, and they would go into the senior patristics seminar. So these are 2 new courses that are going to be coming to then round out our full curriculum as you see here. In addition, our Russian program, which Dr. Aaron is the head of, is growing leaps and bounds and have similar classes as what you see here, but we just don't have the curriculum map yet to reveal. But our Greek program has been amazing. Our students, we had changed the pedagogy of it for this year, and our students are growing leaps and bounds. Mrs. Johansson's daughter, Katie, is in my class, and oh my goodness, I think she may become a Greek scholar. She's just so good at it. She really enjoys it, and she's so good. So Mrs. Johansson will mention a little bit of that later on. But we do have some new classes that are going to be coming in, Greek literature readings. And so this will be a 1-day-a-week class for students who aren't quite 5th grade, and they'll be able to read literature in Greek in bilingual form so that they can continue to use the skills that they learned in the Greek primer. And then we will have 2 years of New Testament Greek readings for 9th through 12th graders, one on the Gospel of John and one in patristics. And then last but not least, we are adding Greek Testament, New Testament intermediate. So for those in the upper school track, they have 2 years and then patristics 2 years. Those on the full track starting from 8 years old go the full track and we'll have all of these years. And of course, then the New Testament readings courses. And I do have to say, these children are soaking it up. And so I'm very, very pleased that the pedagogical change we made has been excellent. All right, so I do have a question that just came in just for this. John and Laura Elliott said, is the Greek literature reading supposed to be taken concurrently or with Greek 1, or is it taken on its own between those two? It's taken on its own between the two. We have some students that are on the younger side here. And so, they're not quite ready for Greek 1, so they'll go into Greek literature readings. Now, could Greek literature readings be taken with Greek 1? Absolutely. Absolutely, it could be taken together. Greek literature readings will only be 1 day a week, so it absolutely could be taken together. But it was actually created for that group of students that aren't quite old enough for Greek 1. That's a great question. Thank you, Elliotts. All right. So in addition to our tried and true liberal arts and our language program, like Greek, like Russian, like Arabic, which has also caught on greatly, we have various electives. As you can see here, we have poetry, we have novel writing, creative writing here, theatrical arts, poetry, and Mrs. Fothergill is here. She is now officially our poetry teacher when it comes to middle school. We have additional electives like Orthodox Saints, Nature and Their Animal Friends, The Big Picture, Growing with Graphic Novels, Old Testament Survey of the Torah with our, Old Testament scholar, Mrs. Smith, who, to our delight, will be teaching the level 6 history. And boy, are those kids in for a treat. That's all I have to say. St. John Chrysostom and Financial Wisdom. And then, of course, we have a comprehensive chant program, Byzantine chant and Carpatho-Rusyn chant. And we're actually going to be speaking with Dr. Nicholas Rumis, who's also here. And he is a Byzantine chant instructor, and we'll be talking with him shortly. So there's many things that are available both in the core classes of the liberal arts and, of course, the electives. And we have many, many more electives coming. I have to say, Dr. Aaron and I met with someone and we're hoping, I think it's going to be a go, Dr. Aaron, lower school music program. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Of course, Kashiani Newman is here. Kashiani, wave your hand. And she is going to be our new lower school art instructor. So she's actually going to be doing a workshop here shortly, starting March 30th, which you can definitely enroll in. And then next year, she's going to be offering a whole year class. So we have many things to engage our students. So what makes Saint Raphael School instructors remarkable? Well, they would never tell you this, but I'm going to tell you because they're so humble. But I'm going to tell you, our instructors are amazing. They are faithful, practicing Orthodox Christians. They are dedicated to classical Christian educators. Of the 20 instructors we have, 37 hold a higher education degree, 15 bachelor, 15 master, 5 doctorates. They have authored books and blogs, and they have been bestowed various recognitions for their work in faith, education, and more. Our instructors are amazing, and I will boast for them because I'm so proud that our families can have such wonderful instructors for their children. And we're all here because we love the Lord and we love children and we love teaching and we love classical education. And this is what brings us joy. We want to teach what is good, what is true, and what is beautiful. And so our instructors are remarkable, and I like to boast for them because they're all humble and wouldn't say it otherwise. So Dr. Nicholas Rumis and I did an interview a while ago. Do you remember Dr. Rumis? And I just did a very, very short clip of it, Dr. Rumis, just to get us started. And then we can talk about what they're going to hear. So let's watch it and go from there. Well, hello, everyone. And today we have a special interview with Dr. Nicholas Rumis. And we always say that our SRS community is remarkable. And they are. Our students, our families, our instructors are remarkable. And today we're highlighting a wonderful success that is just recently released that Dr. Rumis wrote, The Psalter of David the Prophet and King with the 9 Odes.
This book is called the Psalter. Not everybody knows what that is. The Psalter is what we call basically the Book of Psalms when it's arranged for reading in church or in prayer. And many Christian traditions have a Psalter. So there's an Orthodox Psalter, Roman Catholics use the Psalter, fitted Orthodox liturgical Psalter.
Beautiful. So if you're wondering where are all these videos located, just an FYI, they're located on our YouTube channel, School A Academy, and we have many, many videos that we're speaking with our instructors. So Dr. Rumis, come to the mic and tell us about what's going on with that book.
Hello. Hello, hello, everybody. How nice to see you tonight. What's going on with the book is, all right, well, first of all, you know this, right? So I know many of you know this. This is the arc. This is what most people have seen before. Yep, there it is. So the arc is a Byzantine chant book in English. The musical arc is the full title. It's an excellent book for you to use if you want to learn or teach somebody else Byzantine style chanting in depth with the resources in the English language. So that's there, and it's been out for many years, but it just showed up on the Orthodox marketplace, as you're seeing on the screen share here. So this is around, big red, but also now, I know you can't see it too well in the light right here, but here it is. There we go. So there's the Amazon page. This is the Psalter. It's selling like hotcakes, which I think is rather
#1, right?
Yeah, it was #1 in new releases for a while, and it's been sitting high in those rankings. But yeah, it's going, and right now it's going at more than a copy a day, which is a lot. All right. So that's interesting to me because the Psalter is the one Orthodox liturgical book that gets absolutely no use in services anymore. It's an interesting feature of it. And the reason for that is simply that in the ancient Greek, it's translated, so literally from the Hebrew that nobody understands the Greek. Even the ancient Greeks didn't understand the Greek very well. So it's kind of been dropped from services, but there have been some nice English psalters out there. So there's
And so,
here's
Dr.
the
Rumis, can you
yeah.
explain how those incorporate maybe into our Byzantine courses?
Sure. So when I teach Byzantine chant, I do a lot from my book here and some other stuff I've got that's going to be coming out in the future. Just because it's composed with teaching in view. All right, so that's kind of how it is. A lot of Byzantine style chant in English is let's just have something to work with, or let's take these original melodies that were meant for the Greek language or whatever and stick them on the English. This isn't that. This is composed to show the logic of the chant. So if you're studying with me, what you're going to learn is the logic of how to chant in the Byzantine style. You're not just going to memorize melodies. You're going to learn how it works and how to apply that.
And I think that's really important. I'm sorry, really important, because we have 3 instructors currently: Paul Murray, Dr. Nicholas Rumis, and then Elias Diamond, who is also going to be joining. And our program in the Byzantine chant is growing because of this balance between the usage, right? Learning something that can be quickly applied, and the theory, that balance between the two. So these books are excellent. What were you saying about the Psalter, Dr. Rumis?
Sure, I was just going to say, it's a nice book because the Psalter as such, because it's a service book, but it's also something that can be used, personally at home for prayer, right? Reading the Psalms. And I hope to provide people with something that's not just usable in church, but also usable at home to read and pray the Psalms at home in their Orthodox version.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Rumis. Thank you. So I just put the links for both the books that Dr. Rumis has authored. Didn't I tell you our instructors are remarkable? They really are. And Dr. Rumis isn't the only author, but he is the most recent one that has actually released something recently. So if you're interested in those books, I put those in the chat. And also those will be used within our classes of Byzantine chant. So just an FYI. So Dr. Rumis, I'm sure people will have questions later on. My last news. I can't wait, Dr. Aaron. I just can't wait. My last news is huge before I pass it over to Dr. Aaron. Recently, we had a donor come forward, and he has donated funds for clergy families. So what does that mean? Well, this is live on our website right now. You will find it under Resources, Clergy Family Scholarship. This is given and offered to clergy families, mission families, and seminarian families through Saint Amelia Ministries. And there's very specific information for you to actually apply for it and where to send the information. Basically, the way this will work is you will purchase your classes as usual through us, and then apply to be reimbursed by Saint Amelia Ministries. Now, for those of you that are going, well, wait a minute, I'm not a clergy family. How does that work? Well, let me show you. Saint Amelia Ministries also has, and let me pull up that link really quick. Oh, hold on. There we go. There we go. I got it now. Saint Amelia Ministries also has other scholarships, and I'll put these links in the chat as well, that are available, scholarships and grants. They have the Orthodox Homeschool Co-op grant, the Saint Theosevia Scholarship, which is a need-based scholarship, and Saint Gregory of Nyssa Merit Scholarship. So the specific ones that we're talking about for our clergy families is the St. Basil Clergy Family Scholarship. And with that scholarship, yes, your tuition for school, for Saint Raphael School courses can be covered. And not only that, but if you are someone that's taking a liberal arts course, SRS, with us, you could apply to take a STEM class with Scholé Academy and also receive that scholarship for STEM courses to Scholé Academy. So, very, very good news, I think, very exciting news, because it's pretty huge for us to be able to have such a large scholarship to help out clergy families. And again, if you're not a clergy family, there are those other options as well. All right, so hopefully maybe you'll have some questions about that coming up. So I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Aaron, and let me pull up your slides, Dr. Aaron. There we go. Whoops. That's not what I want to do. There we go.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to say a few words about our community at Saint Raphael School, and I'm going to start by telling two quick stories. Presbyterians had to hear me say this recently because I've said this several times in interviews as we've been interviewing new instructors. I often tell people, so this is my third year teaching here at Saint Raphael, and I often tell people, Saint Raphael was around for quite a while before I started teaching, and I am a homeschooling mom. I have 4 kids. I have 2 that are beyond homeschooling now and 2 that are still at home, but I knew about Saint Raphael for quite some time before I ever decided to teach here or ever enrolled my kids. And I will admit that I was a big skeptic. I thought that sounds kind of crazy. I don't think I want my kids on the computer that much. I think they're gonna not learn as well that way. I don't want to do that. And when I did come and start teaching 3 years ago, actually, I think I interviewed the year before, I really was so beautifully and pleasantly surprised by how well this does work. The technology has certainly helps us as it improves, but really how beautiful the community is, how wonderful it is to really get to know families in this venue. And I continue to just be delighted by that. And by the way, I now over almost 3 years of teaching have gotten to know families. I know the students that I teach, and I know their siblings too, because every once in a while I see them in the background, they peek in. Last summer, I had multiple families come through and visit me as they drove across the country. I live right in the middle of the country in Kansas, and it's very fun that people drive through and get to visit me. So I'm really grateful for that. I do want to share a little bit more specific about things we do to help build community here. And community is really important to me, but I will tell, and you can see some of those on the screen. I'm going to tell one more quick story though. I'm going to pick on Julie and Rob because they're here. I'm not picking on them really. I'm telling a wonderful story about them, but I teach one of Julie and Rob's sons and in liberal arts. And I think it was Monday, it was either Monday or Tuesday this week. He showed up for class and sometimes kids show up with funny things in the screen, and he had something around his head and then some big thing that looked like a flashlight on his forehead. It was like orange and red, and I just continued teaching for most of the class, and we got near the end and I said, hey, what is that on your head? It really, I looked like a headlamp or something. And he looked at me and he said, oh, it's a Pentecost flame. And I was like, oh. And he said, oh yeah, for catechism, we're studying Pentecost this week, and I had to make a flame for my head. And I was like, oh, great. That's really fun. That's fun that you've been wearing a Pentecost flame on your head this whole class. So I finished teaching and I shut off my Zoom room, and I teach downstairs in my home, and my 2 kids who homeschool are normally upstairs doing their schoolwork while I'm teaching. So I shut off my Zoom and I walked into my dining room, and my 10-year-old was sitting at the table in my dining room with a headband and a flame on his head. And I looked at him and said, well, I know what that is. And he said, yeah, my homework this morning was to make a Pentecost flame. And I was so delighted because it's so funny. Yes, we're just on the screen, but there's so many ways that we're connecting. So, it just so happens that my son is in the same catechism class with their son whom I teach. And it's really delightful to see how what we're doing in our homes are connecting us to each other, and we know each other. And my kids will sometimes say, oh, do you teach so-and-so? Because I have Greek class with that student. And I think it has been so delightful. And I like to share that because even though we're across miles, we really tend to build community. And I think we create a lot of relationships that will last, hopefully for decades, for the children that we teach and also for the instructors with each other. So that's been so meaningful to me about this. On a more practical level, it's worth sharing a lot of the things on the screen here. So we teach at Saint Raphael. Obviously, the most of our time is dedicated to creating and teaching classes that not only educate, but that nurture and form students. But part of that is also providing other opportunities for our students and for our families. So throughout the year, there's several things that we do to help build that up. You'll see a few of them highlighted on the screen here. We do try to have times where parents can come and have discussions with some of our instructors and our principals. So you'll see there, we do a couple times a year or several times a year coffee with the principals, where parents can come and visit with us as adults. And usually we have some sort of theme and a nice visit then. I should also mention that for example, in my classes, I also offer parents twice a year just to do a parent-teacher conference where we talk about your child's progress. So I kind of get to know you as well. But the coffee with the principal creates a lot of community because we can all get together and talk. We have started offering some other evening events that families and students can come to. So one that we have coming up in just a couple weeks is we're having families watch a film in advance. This is a film from 2006 in Russian. And the English translation is The Island. And we've encouraged families to watch this film. It's not really a film for 5-year-olds. This would be for some of our older students and their parents, and then come for a discussion night with us, with our community. I can say, and I was sharing just before we officially began the meeting, that all of my high school Russian students are also watching at least excerpts, if not the whole film, with me and working on the language aspect of it because they are learning Russian. And so we're doing a lot of trying to bridge some of those community events also into sometimes some of our studies. So we create this nice cohesive whole. We have a couple other lectures that we have throughout the year where parents and students can come. We recently hosted one with Elizabeth Johnson a couple months ago, which was really beautiful, where she came and shared with us about the life of Saint Raphael and also about her own life and her own journey and her own writing. She has authored multiple children's books. We mentioned earlier that Cassiani Newman is offering just a spring art workshop that's just 8 weeks long. So this is great for families who maybe you haven't taken a class with us. This is a great way to jump in and kind of see how it works, just for a few weeks. And some of our iconography workshops are similar. They might not span the whole semester. So if you want to come in and learn something for a while, we have a lecture coming up that we now offer, the Father Porfirios Memorial Lecture, as a tradition, as a memorial to the founder of Saint Raphael School, Father Porfirios, who is buried here not far from where I live, at the monastery in Missouri. And this year we're going to be hosting His Grace Bishop Thomas to talk to us about schooling, sanctified schooling, working out our salvation within education. Many of you may know that Bishop Thomas has a background in education and social work, and so he'll be joining us for that lecture. These are great opportunities for us to bring in people to do lectures, but do it in a setting like we have tonight, where you really could ask a question, you can have some good interaction. And so we really, as a community, are creating community. I guess that's the best way to say that. We're continuing to build community so that we know each other's lives. And I'll say this one more thing. Presbyterian and I often both say this, and I've heard our other instructors say this. When we teach your family, we are coming into your homes, and we know that we are. Our voices are coming into your homes, into your kitchens and your living rooms, and we're entering your sacred space when we do that, and we are aware that we are doing this. So this is on a screen, but it also can be very intimate, and we're grateful for that. I know I speak for other instructors, and I know I speak for myself. It is a huge blessing to me to do that, and so we really do want to think about really connecting as people of faith and as human beings with each other. So that is truly a big part of who we are, because that is part of growing and our formation as human beings. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Erin. And absolutely, that is our beginning and our ending and our middle. So I'm not going to talk long for these two slides. If someone has questions about Schola Academy's support, please let me know, because I do want to get to the panel. But we do offer tutoring and private instruction through our tutoring center, sometimes in tandem with classes. That's who we are. And we do this with instructors who have been trained, especially those with the Center of Learning Differences, and we give personalized tutoring. So my main goal as manager is to make sure that I meet the needs that you have as a family, and then put you with an instructor that's going to be a good match. And so just to throw it out there that, Schola Academy does have tutoring, private instruction, and the Center for Learning Differences. So if you're interested, just get in touch with me. All right, so now we're going to get to the open Q&A. The panel, of course, I've introduced almost everyone, but let me introduce Randy Sider-Rose, who is, you can wave Randy, our in-house iconographer, and she does wonderful work with students in iconography. Dr. Alexander Titus, as we have already said, he's going to be new this coming year and is currently teaching as well, upper school humanities, liberal arts. Kashani Newman, our now resident lower school art instructor. Dr. Nicholas Rumis, who is one of the Byzantine chant instructors. Mrs. Magda Skaramo, you can wave Magda, she is one of our Greek instructors. Mrs. Sarah Smith, who is going to be teaching liberal arts, Old Testament scholar, catechism. Mrs. Sarah Fothergill, who is our middle school instructor, and poetry. And then, of course, I did introduce Miss Nancy Parcells Athanasia, who is our Schola Academy customer service. So you all can put a face with the name when we start to register, and I'll tell you the dates soon. In addition, we have our parents, once again, Julie and Rob Laurie in the top right-hand corner. and Allison Johansson, who is in her own right a Scholé Academy instructor, but she is also an SRS parent. So if you have questions, please go to the Q&A and write your questions. I did post those other links in the chat box. And so I'm just going to kind of go to the parents first. And, you know, you can share whatever you would like. So let's start with Mrs. Johansson, if you would, please.
Of course. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. When I knew that I was coming, I thought, well, wait a minute, exactly how many courses have my two children taken? I had to go back a few years.
Yeah.
I had to refresh my memory because, of course, we're taking quite a few this year, but my older son started with U Presbytera. It was level 4.
Mhm.
It was level 4 liberal arts. And I think I like to take notes. I think you said feel the love. Ever since then, we've been feeling the love.
And now he's a high schooler.
Yep. Yeah. And so then my daughter's taken level 2. She started when he started, and now she's in level 3 with Dr. Moulton, and we're feeling the love for sure. And she's taken 2 different Greek classes. Now she's with Presbytera in Greek. And as you said, the Greek primer, she's loving it. And then we're also taking poetry with Dr. Moulton and the Saints, Nature's Animal Friends, and Old Testament, of course. She took that as well. So we scoop up whatever courses we can. We can fit it in, right? And I would say what I really love is I'm a writer and I teach poetry as well, but we just had to come to you all, especially for this age. As you said, Presbytera, especially in Greek, I hear her, they recited, they did the numbers 1 to 100. And I went up to her after she turned a video and I said, do you know that that was amazing. I don't know Greek. She's studying Latin too. I don't know Latin, but I'm learning. And she just, I think whatever age, these younger ages, you said soaking it up. It's so true. And it's beautiful. I don't have to do a thing. But it's true. You come into our house and they're with you. And it's just, but what I also love, and I would call it holistic integration of the disciplines. That's a really key thing for me. Literature, history, you do nature journals. They were just doing mousetrap cars to go with the Ben and Me book. And I remember when she first started with Miss Celeste, and Pete also had Mrs. Johnson. When they first started, they were doing the Peterkin papers. And we do this too. And they took berries and made ink, right? So you're incorporating, especially the history, of course. You get vocabulary. It's sort of like you're learning and you don't even realize it because it's so fun, but it's just I would call it beautifully integrated in every aspect, right? So I went on, but we just love it. The poetry has been so fun. So we love the full liberal arts courses, the catechism, but then also the smaller offerings, with the poetry, the saints. We are hopefully looking forward to taking Sarah's poetry, studying the Theotokos, right? We couldn't fit it, I know, but when she's a little older, we thought, oh, I can't take. So it's just delightful. And I would encourage other families, definitely take a look. There's so much there. Look at the descriptions. But we definitely feel the love. And that's one of the most important things. My children feel so connected. I feel connected to you all. And it's just been delightful. Yeah, just been delightful. Did I cover it?
You did. Thank you so much, Mrs. Johansson.
No, thank you. We're just so grateful.
Thank you. A question came in before I get to the Lowrys. A question came in. What are your requirements for catechism instructors? Is there a minimum amount of lived Orthodox experience, i.e. versus being a more recent convert? This is a very, very good question. First and foremost, all of our catechists are approved, hired, if you want to use that word, more, I like to use the word appointed by Father Noah Buscelli, who is our spiritual advisor. He approves all of the catechetical curriculum and instructors. Now, having said that, all of our catechists currently are MDiv graduates, Masters of Divinity. And whether, they've been cradle Orthodox, or whether, like Father Noah Buscelli himself is a person who came to the faith. I like to use that word, came to the faith. All of that is decided by him, by Father Noah. But all of our catechists at the minimum have a Master of Divinity. So hopefully that answered your question. And if you have any other specifics, let me know. Very good. So the next question was MDiv from Orthodox institutions or elsewhere, or a mix. So there's some that are a mix, and some that are just Orthodox. And whether it's, like I graduated from Holy Cross with my MDiv THM, or if it's St. Vlad's, or if it's another one. All of it, again, is vetted and discussed with Father Noah, and he assigns catechists for the classrooms. Now, as the principal, one of my important aspects is making sure all of our instructors that are teaching in the classroom, I'm not talking about catechism because that's Father Noah's purview, are members in good standing with the Orthodox faith. So I do call fellow priests and say, hey, what do you know about so-and-so? What do you think about this person? Because even within the liberal arts program, questions about the faith come up, and we need to make sure that our instructors are grounded in that regards. And I always tell instructors, you're never going to know all the answers, right? But you'll know when to answer and when to say, you know what, I'll get back with you, and then reach out to Father Noah, right? So that's really important to me. So to answer the question, yes, we want mature Orthodox Christians, not only in our catechetical program, but also within the classroom itself. So I hope I answered your question sufficiently. If I didn't, send us another question. Julie and Rob, come to the mic. Tell us anything you want to share.
Go ahead, you start.
Okay. We first heard about Saint Raphael School through a podcast, through the Saint Amelia Ministries podcast. I was doing barn tours one day and I said, what? And so then I had to go look it up. We are recent converts as of February last year. And our parish is 2 hours south of where we live, and we live in northern New York. And so 7 months out of the year, it's questionable whether we can travel down to make it. And so Saint Raphael School has been a wonderful support for our whole family. We have 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls, and they're all so different in the things that they're interested in. And there's really something for everyone. And it really brings our whole family together, whether it's the book clubs that we can do together or the overlapping classes and teachers, or some of my children have had the same instructor different years.
Yes.
And so it really brings us together as a family, and we're so thankful. And to know that the instructors are with me in my kitchen every day, even if I can't hear because the kids have headphones on, I can walk past the screen and just be so thankful for Dr. Moulton or Pastor Maria or whoever they're in class with. I just know that you're with me and you're with our family every day. And the instructors are so wonderful about if if you reach out to them about any questions about the course or your student, or they just really see and love your student for who they are. And it's been a wonderful support. And also Rob is even taking classes because they have new adult classes, which
Yes.
really
Thank you for bringing that up. I totally forgot to mention that. So yes, this year we started, and now I'll pass it to you, Rob. This year we started a whole series of adult classes, because one of the biggest things our parents would say is, boy, I wish I could learn Greek next to my son or daughter, or boy, I wish I can learn about catechism or fill in the blank, Russian, etc. So we have several classes for adults, and they're minimally priced because we want to offer that. Our instructors want to offer that to you, the parents. And so, I always say it's important for us to understand that, our instructors have families too, but then, we do offer these little things like family, faith, formation, book clubs, movies, etc., to do these things. Rob.
So, like my wife mentioned, we're really far away from our parish. I've gained a lot of my knowledge of Orthodoxy through online sources like podcasts, through AFR. And it's tough to learn a lot when you can't get down very frequently. I think I've attended maybe 4 Vesper services since we found out about Orthodoxy a couple years ago. But because I signed up, well, my wife signed me up for a Byzantine chant. I've been able to learn a lot in that course with Paul Murray.
Yes.
We discussed liturgics, we discussed the church calendar, we
Yes.
discussed a lot of stuff. And so when you walk in to church on a Wednesday evening because you had a job interview on the opposite side of church, you can come into the Vesper service and be at the chant stand and participate in the Vesper service because you've learned something through the online class that you're taking every Tuesday.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that I have something to aim for after school every Tuesday. I can sit down and chat with some other adults and discuss Orthodox things. And I really appreciate that there's no homework.
That's
there's
not true
homework.
for the kids.
There's homework for me, but it's like, we're not doing formal grades or anything.
No, the adult classes, we give guidelines. We don't officially evaluate. But I love what you guys said, because I remember Owen and Martha.
Yeah.
I knew
Okay.
I said it wrong. Would come, and they were so excited when they took catechism the first year last year, and they're like, we're going to be baptized soon, and we're going to be brought into the Orthodox Church, and it's a beautiful thing. And on that note, not necessarily for you all because you came through Saint Amelia's, but we also have had many families that aren't Orthodox taking our classes for the same reason. And I'll never forget, I'll share this quick story. We had this wonderful Muslim family, and I asked the mother, and they took several of our classes. I asked the mother, I said, we will be talking about Christ. We'll be talking about our faith. We'll be talking about, the ecclesiastical calendar, saints. We'll be looking at icons, hymnography within the liberal arts. We're not just talking about catechism. And I said, is that going to be a problematic? And she said, no, it won't be problematic. And I said, well, how come? And I'll never forget what she said. She said, because of the caliber of teaching. That's why we're here. And other stories of families that have been from other Christian traditions that have come to the faith now and are now either baptized or going to be baptized. So God is good all the time. So thank you, Julie and Rob. Your kiddos, Owen and Martha, they just have great personalities. So I appreciate them so. All right, so I want to get to our new instructors. Dr. Titus, tell us a few words about what's coming up new that you're going to be offering this coming year.
Sure. Thanks, Presbytera. Yeah, so I've been, like Presbytera said, I've been teaching here for 3 weeks now,
Mm-hmm.
and I've loved every second of it. Honestly, like it's been absolutely amazing. The kids are amazing. So I just want to say that really quick. Yeah, I look forward to it every day. I mean, every day we have class, so it's been really, yeah. It's been really amazing. So yeah, so what I'm doing is kind of working to sort of build out our upper end level 7 and now level 8 liberal arts classes. So we have these classes. They're kind of when we have them, and they're sort of they were a little bit well, not a little bit, but a lot kind of Western centric in terms of the content. So we're kind of trying to we do want to have some of those Western sources like Dante and Chaucer and Shakespeare and that kind of thing. But we also kind of want to build out the Orthodox material, stuff from the Christian East, things that sort of most of us would kind of recognize, just so the students really get a sense of their own tradition, as well as kind of that of the kind of the Western canon. The really great thing about this is, I mean, these are real books. These are not, I mean, that's one of the things that's just amazing about classical education. Like, we're reading real books. I mean, I'm reading books with high school students. I've taught to graduate students. I mean, it's just like, and they're really engaging with them. It's absolutely amazing. I think with a lot of education nowadays, it's like you get kind of the textbook is kind of the main thing, and then sort of the real book is kind of like maybe you'll read a little bit of the real book. But with us, it's the opposite. We get the real books first, and we read through those, and maybe we'll have a supplementary textbook. But so that's really kind of what I'm kind of trying to build out here. So I'm working on developing that, and I know Presbytera was really excited about this. I'm really excited about it too, is getting that level 8 class going there. So what we're trying to do basically is, as I'm kind of developing these level 7 classes, which is sort of our, broadly speaking, kind of medieval Renaissance sort of era, about, basically between kind of the time of Constantine and the fall of Constantinople. As I'm kind of building these out, I'm thinking, well, we should probably move some of the early modern stuff into this other class as well. So sort of like kind of trying to take some of that material, get that sort of built out on the level 7, and then moving some of this material. So I'm thinking we have a lot of kind of great early modern material. I know I've been talking with Dr. Erin, because she's our sort of resident Slavicist, about getting some Russian material in here. From kind of the early modern period, someone like Dmitri of Rostov, but also, again, kind of because we want students to be familiar with the Western canon, including those things, those early modern classics like Shakespeare and Milton and that kind of thing. I'm looking at, again, getting some of those classic, 19th century Russian novelists, these kind of things in here. So that's really kind of what we're trying to build out for this level 8 class. And it's, again, it's super exciting. And I know Presbytera is really excited about it, and I love working on it. So it's yes,
thank you, Dr. Titus.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. We're very excited about this because it rounds off our whole liberal arts program. It really just, adds that final class that we really needed for our upper school students. So thank you. We can't wait. Shani Newman, tell us about your art course.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So we'll be looking at the themes of nature as the light returns to us for spring, the flowers start blooming, the birds come back, all those wonderful things that we get right around Pascha. It's going to run 8 weeks, so it'll run us right into the end of the school year. Hopefully, everyone's weather will kind of cooperate and the kids will be able to see in real life the things that we are talking about in class. We're going to look at masterpieces, and that includes icons and not icons. For example, Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, to talk about the sun, the light, the stars, and they'll be able to paint with swirls and see the colors mix, because we're talking about kindergartners and first and second graders and third graders who are still developing the fine motor skills. So it's going to have a very practical side, but we are going to look at icons and not really dissect them, but observe what makes them special. What does the bird above Christ show us? You know, little kids, I'm homeschooling my own kindergarten through third grade, and they make fantastic connections if you just give them a chance to think, take a breath, don't necessarily narrate them all the time. So I'm looking forward to having more fantastic conversations like that with a larger group. And then we'll have the similar course set up for next year if anyone is interested in a year-long course, building fundamental art skills for those kids who might want to take iconography with your wonderful iconographer in the future. For my family, when we started having kids, we made it a point that icons needed to be a normal part of life. Orthodoxy needed to be a normal part of life. And so iconography, drawing, tracing, coloring, I'm just an art geek anyway. So I told my husband when he was a headmaster at our local classical school, like, you give me the opportunity to do art and I can integrate all of your subjects. Just the little kids, they eat it up. It's hands-on, it's visual, it's words, it's ideas. Maybe they don't have the word to show, to tell yet. So I don't know if that's helpful. And
yes, it is so helpful. And I love that you said we integrate our faith. Our faith isn't separate, right? It's permeated throughout everything we offer at Saint Raphael School. That's so important to us. Of course, she mentioned iconography, which means then they would go to Mrs. Randy Sider Rose. Mrs. Sider Rose, anything you want to add?
Oh, I've also had that thought, Cassie, in me that I could do a whole curriculum based on iconography, science, history, everything. Yeah, I guess you tap into anything and there's a depth there.
I know mathematicians who would say the same thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the geometry, yeah, the math and iconography.
Yeah.
Now, Mrs. Sider Rose has workshops, and students and adults can take workshops to do iconography. And she also has an apprenticeship program in which students can actually take several years, and in the end, and she can tell you better than I, be good enough for a commission, right, Mrs. Sider Rose?
I haven't pinned it down that much, but it's definitely, like the workshops are things, they're 10 weeks long. And some people just keep taking the workshops and that's totally fine. There's less of a homework obligation there, but then there's also and you do paint an entire icon in that 10-week workshop. But then the apprenticeship is for people who really want to build their iconography skills, because it takes more than what you can do in class. You have to be working on your skills, your drawing, and so forth. And so that meets every week for the entire year, and all 6 years are planned out. So you start with the frontal face, and then like the model of classical education is that you take it in small steps and really master each steps. So then we go to the slightly turned face, and then the bust and the standing figure, and so forth. And all the while we're having discussions and we're reading about the history of theology and so forth. So yeah.
And it's beautiful. Please go to our website. Mrs. Sider Rose has examples of student work. It's amazing what she is able to inspire in them, the joy that comes out, and what is in the iconography. So thank you, Mrs. Sider Rose. All right, Mrs. Smith, who just had a beautiful baby.
Who I named Kassiani.
I
didn't know there was another one
know.
out there, so I'm excited.
Another Kashiani.
Yeah. So I am here just to I'm kind of piggybacking off of Dr. Titus because he mentioned that the liberal arts for the upper school used to be like for the last couple years anyway, they've been Scole Academy and SRS together, but the problem was that everything seemed to be Western church oriented, or history was very talked about the Western things. And so this year it's just back to SRS teaching it. And so I'm teaching the level 6, which is ancient classics, the history portion. And so what I just wanted to speak on too about how at least if I'm teaching it, how it will be kind of uniquely Orthodox is there will be looking at the scope of history. And if it's over the 2-year cycle, it would cover basically kind of like the beginning of the Iron Age, so approximately like 1000 BC, and I would be going up until like Constantine, and that's where Dr. Titus would take over after that. But what's going to link it together is I'm super passionate about our identity as Orthodox Christians, and that identity starts even before Christ comes incarnate. And so when I will be teaching this, I will totally be in the scope of history and world empires and leaders and people groups and religions. I'm all about that. If you've taken any of my Bible classes, you'll realize I'm all about that. But I will always focus on who are the people of God within this, and how do they develop, and how do we get to the church from this ancient church, and how do we, who are we as Orthodox people? Where do we see ourselves in history? And that's kind of always like my big passion. So it will be a history class, and you will get all the mud and crud of history, but there will always be a focus on who we are as Orthodox people, and where we've been and where we're going.
And I have to say the upper school team is collaborating beautifully. Something we do well is collaborate with one another, and they're doing a beautiful job collaborating to bring these classes to our upper school students. And of course, primary sources. I forgot to mention that when Dr. Titus was speaking. We use primary sources. We don't use abridged things. We read the books. Of course, they're a translation if they come from a different language, right? But many of us do speak multiple languages, and we can, comment on specific things that maybe come out of the original language that isn't there in the translation. But point being, we go to the source, the good and great books source. Miss Magda, last but never least. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
I always do that, Presbítera.
Yeah, it's okay.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Magdalene Skirmo, and I'm teaching Greek 1 and Greek 2. And we just recently changed the curriculum, and it is absolutely working out lovely.
Yes.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. The kids, the feedback that we've been getting from the parents is that it just feels natural to them, very natural. And we're able to integrate our Orthodox faith with Greek. We also do conversational Greek as well as liturgical Greek. And the kids are just loving it. I see their smiles every single day in class. They look forward to it. And, I teach from 12:30, then 2 o'clock, then 3:30. And I'm always kind of butting back to back because no one wants to sign off.
Yeah, that's a common problem at SRS.
They don't want to sign off. The kids just love talking and learning, talking. And again, it is just beautiful. And it's really nice to see how our classes work well within each other. We were just, I had brought up the Akathist to Saint Joseph the other day. And when I was explaining what Akathist means, I was able to, I knew that some of the students in my class took Sarah Fothergill's class. And I said,
Or
oh,
in
remember?
Dr. Aaron's class, they did akathist.
Yes. So I said, remember when you taking poetry, the akathist? I said, this is what it means, and about the praising. And it's really, really beautiful to see how the kids love to just learn. And again, we are very blessed to be able to come into your homes. We're very respectful of that. And every day I do my cross saying thank you to God that I have a community of learners that just, I love them and they love me back, and I adore it. And one thing, Presbyter, I have to say, you say
Yes.
that the teachers, the instructors are remarkable. I have to say that you are remarkable, you and Dr. Erin as well. And we thank you for your support. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you. I mean, as you can see, we're a very tight-knit group. We know what each other are teaching. We know, and we, cheerlead each other's successes and attempts, and balm when, they just don't come out just right. The souls, but we are a community of learners. Dr. Aaron, final thoughts before I release the dates, the important dates.
I don't think so. It's always a joy to hear people talk about their experiences with us. So yeah, thank you all for being here.
Yeah, thank you. And save the dates. All right. So April 24th, the week of April 24th will be Saint Raphael School preview week and summer preview week, in which we have several Orthodox instructors offering classes as well, along with Schole Academy offering mini classes for the summer. And then May 1st, the week of May 1st, is Saint Raphael School open enrollments. Now, this year we had close to 600 enrollments.
Wow.
Yes, and we're expecting quite a bit more this coming year by God's grace to also enroll. So we are prepared. The table is going to be filled and ready. So please, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can obviously reach out to me. You can also reach out to the specific instructor if you have a question about level 8, Dr. Titus, or iconography, Mrs. Sider-Rose. And just reach out to us. If you don't know who to reach out to, just contact Schole support and it'll be fed through by the beautiful Mrs. Nancy Parcells, Athanasia, and she'll make sure it gets to the right person. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns that you would like to stick around and speak with me or Dr. Aaron on more of a personal one-to-one, feel free to stick around. But otherwise, from all of us, from Saint Raphael School and of course, Schole Academy, thank you so much for coming to our open house. And we look forward to seeing you come and preview week at the end of April. And then of course, registration the first week of May. So thank you so much. Dr. Aaron, could you do me the honor of doing a prayer in Russian as a closing prayer, please? And thank you.
Sure. I usually have my students, the first prayer that they learn is the one that is the first prayer most of us should learn, which is Our Father, right? And so throughout first year of Russian, they have to be able to open and close at a minimum with Our Father. By the way, they're all doing the prayer of Saint Ephrem right now, but we'll close with Our Father as it's most familiar for people. Отче наш, иже еси на небесех, да светится имя Твое, да придет царствие Твое, да будет воля Твоя, яко на небеси и на земле. Хлеб нас насущный дашь нам днес, и остави нам долги наши, яко же мы оставляем должникам нашим. И не веди нас во искушение, но избави нас от лукавого. Во имя Отца и Сына и Святого Духа, и ныне и присно, и во веки веков. Аминь.
Amen. Good night, everyone. Thank you for coming. Panelists, thank you for being here. God bless you guys. And if you do have questions that you want to stick around, please do so. And we will see you next time. Don't forget about our Russian movie night. Don't forget about Principal Coffee and of course the memorial lecture of Father Porphyrios. All right, good night, everybody. Bye-bye. See ya.